Have you ever thought about the comforting fact that at any moment an asteroid could just plow its way into Earth, ending all life as we know it? I know it's something that keeps me up at night sometimes. But what if it was the moon itself that decided it was time to call it quits? Better yet, what if the moon had a horrifying grin on its face while it did it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what happens in the world of The Moon Woke Up. An eerie grin appears on the moon, and it decides that it's game over. This isn't the first time the moon has taken on an antagonistic role in the world of analog horror. Local 58 saw the moon as its main big bad. Now, why would it do such a thing? Maybe it got all pissed off after humans got their Maybe it got all pissed off after humans got their dirty shoe prints all over it. All this to say that the series The Moon Woke Up has been absolutely blowing up all over YouTube, with each episode garnering millions of views. So clearly something about this story has people so invested that I just knew it was finally time to take a peek. We have covered the likes of Mr. Friend before in videos about the horror animated shorts and their works in bringing terrifying phobia scenarios to life. But it's now time to get into their magnum opus. If you have astrophobia, you may want to sit down. As always, be sure to check out the original series if you haven't already. But given the amount of popularity it has garnered, who am I kidding? Everyone appears to have seen this already. But without further ado, let's equip ourselves in our fancy spacesuits and float off into the horrifying world of The Moon Woke Up. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. I'll also have linked in the description below our socials and the 4-player gaming channel where we dive into the terrifying world of horror video games. But anyways, now you can pass through. The Moon Wakes Up, Episode 1. Our story begins in the eyes of an astronaut, staring off at the big beauty itself. According to our buddy, they've got 4 hours until arrival. Sounds like the moon is their destination. We hear over the radio that this is Apollo 11, making this what should have been humanity's first steps on the moon. Looks like we're watching our two main mans, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. However, in this universe, I don't think they're going to be making it to their objective. The moon has other ideas.
What the hell is that? Houston, you getting this?
The moon begins to spin itself around and starts to move out of its usual spot. Inside the cruiser, things start to go haywire, and an explosion launches our astronaut out into the depths of space, leaving us only able to watch as the moon heads closer and closer to Earth. We cut to a satellite camera to get a good look at the moon deciding it just doesn't like. The last thing we see in this introduction shows us that the moon isn't the only one that has quote-unquote woken up. Yup, Saturn, Jupiter, and Uranus all have the same haunting grin, and I have a bad feeling about where they are headed. Now that was an explosive start to this new series. Something I think about often is what would happen if you were an astronaut witnessing the end of the world and how terrifying that sight would be. Sure, you've managed to survive the devastation, but at that point I feel like you would have just wished you were a part of it. Not all of us are Matt Damon, capable of surviving solo on a different planet. Episode 2. We open up on the city streets of New York, dating us a month before the moon woke up, and we can hear as some crazy guy is spouting off nonsense about how they have seen the visions and that chosen ones are being transformed. He says the awakened ones will soon be here, and the chosen ones are awaiting their arrival. Funnily enough, I am writing this the day the rapture was supposed to happen. Given what we know now, I guess that guy wasn't so crazy after all. However, we end up cutting through the eyes of a father trying to get his family ready for whatever it is they had planned, 5 days before the event. Yet his kid isn't responding to anything he says, nor is his wife. He looks at the TV and all it shows is static and a garbled voice. He goes to get his kid's attention and, well, I'll let you see this for yourself.
Michael, if I have to tell you one more time.
Whatever happened to Michael has transformed his face into that similar to the planets. We can even see that all of Michael's drawings are that of all the planets with the woken up faces. We then cut over to South Africa and watch as a tribe bows down to this drawing of the moon on the day it woke up. So it looks like people from all over the world knew about this event to come. Perhaps the guy in New York was being fully truthful when he said he saw visions. Sounds like a lot of other people had the same ones and began to prepare for this catastrophic event. The camera ends up looking up at the sky, and we see from the first episode the face appearing on the moon, followed by a breaking news report covering the ordeal. We then find ourselves just chilling on the beach in Italy. If it's going to be the end of the world, you might as well be relaxed. Our character begins to notice something wrong as alarms begin to siren in the back, and once we look up, we get probably the most horrifying angle yet of the moon's crash landing. If I saw this, you can kiss my ass goodbye.
Okay, Jim, I'll see you around. Where you going? No! Oh, no!
In a shocking turn of events, we cut ahead to 5 years later and can see what has been left of our civilization. I'm honestly surprised that anyone is still alive. We watch as a recovery team wanders through the mayhem, and we learn that the estimated death toll was 3.2 billion, wiping away 90% of the Earth's population, and that all the oceans are essentially completely dried up. The radio narrator then asks the questions: can mankind rebuild? And what other threats are lurking out there? All while we see where exactly the moon has landed, before we cut to a satellite camera showing us that Jupiter is now right outside our doorstep. We return to Earth, back at the recovery team as they end up stumbling upon what looks to be Michael's drawings we saw earlier. However, the last drawing we look at doesn't appear to be an awoken planet, but something far worse. This episode gave us quite the grim look at the after effects of the moon's crash landing. Life on Earth has expectedly taken a heavy toll, putting ourselves in an apocalyptic scenario. It's interesting to see that there were apparently people who knew that this was going to happen before it even did. The Doomsday Guy knew a whole month in advance, and Michael was drawing pictures of the planets 5 days before, and even looked like he was infected of some sorts. If I had to guess, the Doomsday Guy and the people in the tribe we saw all had visions of the future. However, when it comes to Michael, a whole different situation appeared to have happened that I'm not too sure of. Perhaps whatever was on the TV was what caused it, somehow telepathically infecting him. Whatever is going on here, humanity is going to have a hell of a time trying to get back to any semblance of normalcy. Episode 3. It's now been 10 years since the moon has woken up, and we open up seeing 2 astronauts taking their first steps on the moon's surface as they begin to drill into the floor. We end up seeing that it isn't just Jupiter looming over Earth, but Saturn and Uranus as well. And no one knows exactly what their intentions are. They're just standing there, menacingly. We are then introduced to the Frontline Research Initiative for Earth's New Defense, or FRIEND for short. And it sounds like they are the reason humanity has managed to keep themselves alive for this long, focusing on survival, research, and recovery. And they are placed right outside what is being dubbed the Umbra Zone. The Umbra Zone is a 2,800 kilometer radius surrounding the impact point where the land looks to be inhabitable, likely due to radiation or some other toxic reasonings. Life on Earth still isn't looking too good, however, as displaced survivors are still scavenging for basic needs. We see as this rat is eating this odd pink substance, until our character smashes it with a skull because he needs to eat too. Survival of the fittest, I suppose. It is then said that Saturn, Jupiter, and Uranus are sitting just barely outside of the Lagrange Influence Disturbance Zone, which is essentially why Earth hasn't been seeing any cataclysmic gravitational disasters. However, we see as a space probe is being sent out towards Jupiter, and another probe is making its way to Saturn. Yet before they are able to get too close, we see as something exits out of Jupiter's mouth.
What the hell? Gravity spike interrupting.
It isn't just Jupiter with this newfound ability. Saturn also ejects the moon Titan out from inside, and it takes out the space probe. Hopefully they were unmanned. Things are looking pretty bleak for humanity. We watch as 2 soldiers approach a survivor, but when they turn around, it's clear that they have also been infected as they leap to attack our soldiers. The last thing we are met with in this episode shows someone approaching the gates of the Umbral Zone, and something can be seen in the dark fog. We have now seen our second victim to this strange moon infection, donning the similar haunting face we saw on Michael. It isn't yet clear how people get this infection, but if I had to guess, it has to have something to do with that pink substance. If we are headcanoning that the character wasn't infected before he smashed the rat with the skull, then he would have ingested the substance after eating the rat, considering that was what the rat was snacking on before his demise. So whatever that pink liquid is, it's probably best to keep our distance. This episode gave us a bit more world building. showing us that not all hope is lost for humanity, as we have friend industries attempting to keep the remnants alive while trying to get some answers as to why this is all happening, even though all of our efforts so far have been met with failure. However, given how destructive the initial impact was, I'd say it's quite impressive that we are already able to be sending out new space probes to investigate Saturn and Jupiter, even if they were immediately taken out by the other moons. I gotta say, the selection of what planets have woken up is something I'm curious about. The Earth hasn't woken up, but our moon did. However, when it comes to the other planets, it was both them and their moons that woke up. I wonder what makes us so special. Perhaps the existence of life? This series is going to send me into an existential crisis, I tell ya. Episode 4. The first thing we are met with in this episode has us rewatching the moon slamming into Earth. And as it turns out, this is some sort of advert for Friend Industries. We see as someone is crawling begging for help, until someone from Friend shows up and offers his hand. We get to learn more about this global initiative. The industry is now the largest employer in the world. I'd say it's likely the only employer in the world. But that means that there are now a wide range of sectors that can suit everyone. They have weapons development, hydrogenesis research, a repopulation program, sign me up,
Application full.
a Marine Corps, research and development, a space program, and many more. We are then told to apply so that we can help protect the Earth. All of that seemed nice and dandy other than research and development. God only knows what happened to that poor guy. Are we sure that Friend Industries has our best interests in mind? Our next segment then takes us into the back of a vehicle, following what I imagine is a group of Friend Marines. Their group has a bit of banter, and we can see that our character has been outfitted with a bionic arm. One of the Marines then ends up revealing what exactly causes the infection to spread. But is that really the truth?
First it was the cosmic frequency turning you into one of those. Now it's the radiation. It's all bollocks.
It sounds like they've been fed conflicting information. Or, like us, they are just making educated guesses. My money is still on what is now being called the moon juice. The truck ends up arriving at their destination, so we put our masks on and get ready for the operation. The back door opens and things immediately go to shit.
Stay on my 6.
Like the genius he is, the Marine by our side just starts blasting, killing the infected and the squad leader in the process. We check and see that he is dead until we ourselves are attacked, but that bionic arm sure comes in handy. However, it looks as if the whole truck immediately gets overrun. We are thrown out of the back by this creature that doesn't even look human anymore. But before we are killed, something catches its attention, and I don't even know if I can explain what ends off this episode. It looks like a cosmic rift of some sort tears open, and a giant hand comes in and kidnaps Jupiter. Well, that's one problem solved, I suppose. If cosmic horror is all about being unexplainable, this is certainly doing the job correctly. Interestingly enough, the end of this episode also showed us that the Moonfected aren't just mindless killing machines. If they were, I would guess the space rift would not have prevented us from being slaughtered. I actually think that this infection may act as some sort of hive mind. Whatever has woken up the planets and infected humanity all operate under a singular network. So once Jupiter became in danger, everything stopped to see what was going on. This episode also seems to be the start in our slight tone shift for the series. By all means, this whole plot and situation was ridiculous to begin with, but it now seems like the tone has started to embrace the absurdity. The whole beginning ad segment with Friend Industries gave me heavy Helldivers vibes, which honestly, I am all here for a cosmic satirical adventure. If we are going to have giant alien hands coming out of cosmic rifts and planets becoming sentient to attack Earth, I might as well go all out. Episode 5. We open up and are brought to the FFS, the Frontier Friend Station that's out in space, following a couple astronauts who are awaiting the replacement crew, so docking measures are being prepared. We can see behind us that Jupiter is still looming overhead, making this before the giant space hand yoinked it away. I suppose I spoke too soon because right as we see the replacement crew on their way, the camera begins to glitch out, before we see a very familiar scene.
What the hell was that? Oh my god.
Turns out it's not just Jupiter that got taken away, but Uranus and Saturn as well. We turn around and see the giant hand eerily appear above Jupiter. This incident causes some major gravity shifts, causing the replacement crew's ship to lose control and slam into the station. Pieces of rubble send one of our buddies flying off, but we are able to grab hold. Their dreams of joining the repopulation program now in our hands, until a piece of debris flies by and knocks him away. And not only knocks him away, but slices him in half. Poor guy.
The repopulation program had spaces open over here.
But not until we turn and see that we are about to be next. We hard cut down to Earth, watching as the Marines are fighting off the larger, much more haunting-looking Moonfected. It doesn't seem like bullets do any good, as they are able to just pick up this guy like it's nothing and send him flying. We hear from our usual Friend Industries narrator updating us about how the 3 planets that were neighboring ours have been plucked away, believing that for now, humanity is safe, even though they still have a bunch of the infected moon people roaming around and causing chaos. I guess they are easier to deal with than whatever Jupiter and the gang had in store for us. However, we are then met with another time jump, our biggest one yet at a whopping 150 years. We can see that within that time, humanity has done quite the phenomenal job at rebuilding itself given the situation. Friend Industries appears to have gotten a sizable upgrade. The Umbra Zone has these huge walls surrounding it, and the moon now has this strange mechanism that appears suction to the side. As we zoom out further into space, we can see a giant space station floating by, and the craziest advancement yet, this contraption that has been built around what appears to be a remnant of the cosmic rift that opened up and stole the planets. Are we planning to take control of it, or is this a safety precaution? I'm gonna guess, given humanity's nature, that it's the control option. And would you look at that? We see immediately that it's designed to open it back up whenever we so please. Our next segment has us in the eyes of someone that appears to be in cryosleep, someone the doctor in front of us deems Subject 24X, the sole survivor out of 86 candidates. Are we becoming Spartans? We can see that we lack a left arm, but then our pod is opened up and we can see our 2 characters. It isn't clear what is happening here, but the doctor commands us to go to the chair, which doesn't look ominous at all. We sit ourselves down and are told that we are going to be the very first viable superhybrid in over a century of failed augmentation trials. From the sounds of it, they have been researching gene integration with the pink moon juice, which has been given the new name Element 75U, and we are about to get our own injection. The arm gets attached to us, and we are hit with the dose. It's now time to put things to the test. We get up and can see they just had one of the giant moon creatures in their back door, but we are able to use our newfound arm to do something quite incredible to see. The last thing we end up seeing this episode is our good pal Neptune, now seemingly getting ready to wake up. So it looks like they are able to use the moon juice as some sort of enhancement. If I had to guess, it's only usable through the bionic attachment we have been provided. I imagine that this has to be the same character we saw during the last episode. He has the same looking bionic arm, and he seemed to be the most capable in holding his own during a fight, so it wouldn't come as a shock if the company saw him as a candidate for better usage. At some point, he underwent cryosleep and was woken up many years later and is being thrust right into the action. I like how that whole segment felt like the opening to a video game. You're the silent protagonist waking up in a strange new world. Something else to note is my theory about moon juice being what causes infection is starting to dwindle, unless it just depends on the amount of it or how it's consumed or what. Perhaps we found a way to alter it so that it doesn't come with all the nasty side effects. Episode 6. We open up and can hear the Friend Industries narrator talking about how it's been 150 years since Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus have been taken away. While it seems like that'd be the best thing to happen, there have been some downsides. For instance, without Jupiter's gravitational shield, Earth is now facing a surge of asteroid activity. But there's no need to worry, as Friend Industries has developed these pew cannons to take them out before they get too close, which totally doesn't have any collateral damage at all.
See? Nothing to worry about.
The first few minutes of this episode has us looking at some of humanity's advancements and achievements within the last 100 years. They have been able to restabilize Earth's orbit, and we learn that all of this is possible because of the moon juice. It's essentially what has been powering all of this advanced technology, and not even just the advanced tech either. It's powering items as small as your electric toothbrush, to that of the spaceships allowing for travel. As it turns out, that giant mechanism attached to the moon is acting as a sort of juicer for this pink liquid, and they have the poor Marines facing off against the Moonfected, trying to extract it as well to keep up with the high demand. Since there is always the fear of something coming back to cause more problems, they launched Project Friendgate, which is that big circular gate that surrounds the rift, so that they can open it up and learn more about the universe that surrounds us. This brings us to our next segment, where we are in the POV of someone entering into a spacecraft alongside with the pilot. It sounds like these two are going to be the first to explore past the gate. We are aboard Stargoose 6, and are being accompanied by Stargoose 4 and 5 joining us on this journey. The gate then activates and the rift opens up. The ships activate their moon drives and get ready for moon jump, and we speed our way through the gate. We can hear as some people back at the base don't have much faith in our survival, and that may ring true given the disaster we then witness. It looks like the rift got overloaded and started to expand, completely destroying the gateway. That can't be good. We return to Stargoose 6, making its way through the wormhole. But not all is peaceful for long, however, as a gravity spike is encountered coming from behind the ship, and the object is said to have a mass of over 700 septillion kilograms. And as it turns out, we have been followed by none other than Neptune itself. No one was aware that Neptune had woke up until now, and in a tragic scene, we lose one of the Stargoose ships. We exit out of the rift and are met with a wild scene. This large tentacle entity is approaching an unknown planet, as Stargoose and Neptune are seen exiting the rift. The tentacles reach inside this middle hole, and what looks to be an awoken moon comes out from inside. This was definitely one of the wildest episodes we have gotten so far, with a lot of questions on my mind. Why did Neptune feel the need to follow the ship? Perhaps it was trying to search for his kidnapped friends. If the awakened planets do operate as a hive mind, it would make sense in that case for the other planets to have called out for help, and for Neptune to know where to go. However, outside the rift, we didn't see any of our familiar planets, just the unexplainable cosmic entity that gave birth to a new moon. We have fully entered horror sci-fi comedy territory with these last few episodes, and I can only imagine it's going to get crazier. Something to note for those of you with keen eyes and good memories, we technically saw this event in a previous episode. If we go way back to episode 2, back to where the infected Michael was drawing his pictures, one of the drawings has that same tentacled creature with a ship down at the bottom. This proves that a certain amount of people were in fact getting visions of what's to come. Who knew that it would be this far in the future, or why they would be shown these visions in the first place? Episode 7. We have arrived at the latest episode in the series, and have been taken back to the earliest in the timeline, all the way to 10,000 BC. We watch as our ancestors are about to hunt down a pair of woolly mammoths. Equipped with our spears, we begin our stealth mission, until we step on a stick and give away our position. The first guy runs head first, but gets absolutely demolished. But with our crazy gymnastics, we are able to climb up the top and deal the killing blow. We begin to approach the smaller mammoth, but a large rumbling can be heard, which scares it away. And when we look up, we can see the large tentacle creature hovering in front of the moon. It slaps the moon into oblivion, causing hellfire to rain down on Earth, and a huge tidal wave to kill off our poor caveman. The large entity then reaches into its mouth, and pulls out an awoken moon as a replacement. The moon then goes to sleep, and we pull back to see that this process has been repeated for Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. I'm not too sure if this means that there is more than one of those cosmic entities birthing replacement moons, or if that was a stylistic choice to show a time-lapse of the creature going to each of the planets to repeat the process. Nonetheless, we are brought back to Stargoose 6, caught in between Neptune and the entity. Our pilot character gives the giant entity the name Patricia based on his great aunt. Don't ask. The two are unsure what to do in the moment, and they don't feel like following the ship AI's advice and suicide bombing it. Miraculously, Stargoose 4 has managed to make it through the wormhole as well. However, due to damage, they only have one moon jump left. Patricia then begins to go on the move, approaching Neptune. From Stargoose 6, we watch as Patricia sticks her tentacles into Neptune's eyes and mouth. Now this has gotten freaky. Neptune doesn't seem to be enjoying what's happening to it, and lo and behold, a giant new rift opens up, and a familiar hand comes out and snatches Neptune away. Stargoose 4 decides to pull a very risky move, and moon jumps into the rift to try and figure out what's going on. Patricia is now trying to speed off, and it's now time for Stargoose 6 to follow. We moon jump towards her path, but Patricia has a defensive plan, shooting out a swarm of moons right towards us. We abort the moon jump, and find ourselves in the middle of deep space, somewhere in a different quadrant. We turn and see that in front of us is a different planet, with signs of biological life, and two moons sticking out of its surface, just like Earth, before this episode ends. This was the longest episode in the series so far, yet it felt like it went by the fastest with how much was happening. We're definitely going to have a tough time trying to figure out what in the hell we just watched. It appears that way back in the past, like during caveman days, either Patricia alone or alongside others just like her, came to our solar system and began to wipe out the original moons, replacing it with replicas that in reality are a living entity, to which the moons would then wake up and smash into the planet it neighbors. If this is what caused the other planets to wake up, who knows if Earth is on its way to being next to open its freaky eyes. Episode 8. I know I said that episode 7 was the latest entry, but while writing this video, episode 8 has dropped just yesterday. Let's see if anything gets cleared up in this new installment. We start this episode off by flipping through what feels like interdimensional cable, with our familiar friend and narrator talking about the moon behind the greatest wall mankind has built. It appears that this is some documentary about the Umbra Zone, but we flip over to a commercial showing off a very unexpected use of moon juice. Are you having trouble satisfying your partner? Well, apparently there is now Moon Juice XXX. I have no idea how this is supposed to work, and if I'm being honest, I'm quite scared to know. The last channel we flipped to has this goofy animation created by the channel Solar Balls, a collab I did not expect, but it makes a bunch of sense in hindsight.
Hey guys, let's play tag. I'm first. Wait, dude! You wanna merge together and make...
As it turns out, this collection was being watched by a couple of friend employees, but an emergency transmission comes onto the screen, and we are introduced to Dr. Chen, and he seems to be in some trouble.
They're inside. I don't know how they got past the automated defense net.
Sounds like some of the Moonfected have gotten their way into the secure facility he resides in, and he mentioned something about Zone 4 subjects, and that they have discovered something within them, perhaps a new moon juice revelation. He is requesting immediate evac, before he ends up dead like half of his team before the signal is cut off. Our next segment takes us to the city New Cairo, and it looks like we're in the perspective of our bionic armed character we saw back in episode 5. It looks like more people have been infused with biotics and moon juice as we see someone with these really cool swords for hands, and we see that we are a group of 4 Marines heading to Zone 4, responding to Dr. Chen's distress signal. The vehicle approaches a security checkpoint, RAD gets confirmed, and we walk through the scanner. Funnily enough, one of our teammates' whole lower half is just a giant wheel. He believes we are judging his wheel, and it sounds like he is pretty insecure about it. The Blade Lady tries to calm the situation down, but ends up making fun of him a little bit, which just pisses him off more.
I could kick your ass.
Yes, I bet your wheel is strong.
He gets so mad he pulls a gun out on her, and she shows that she isn't going to be taking any of his shit.
You Russian friend.
Before tensions escalate further, our little robot buddy puts him in some moon juice prison for a couple seconds while scolding him before release. The crew then notices these odd-looking particles falling from the top of the wall, but no one knows what it could be from. But it's time for the crew to hop back onto the vehicle, and the gates begin to open. The poor guy is trying to put his hand back on as we head down the long road. The highway stretches on for about 2 miles before they have to take a ground approach, and Dr. Chen's outpost is 12 miles out. They certainly have a ways to go. However, this road trip isn't going to be so peaceful, as we immediately see multiple infected jumping over the barrier. But the vehicle turret seems to be doing the trick, and we even get to see the Blade Lady in action. The crew stops to try and help some survivors, a child and his mom. The squad leader calls for an extraction, but the mom begins to look like she's turning into an infected, so the wheel guy quickly puts her down. But, to our surprise, the kid reveals why that isn't the case.
She was turning into one of them kids.
No, she wasn't. She has epilepsy.
Oh, whoopsie daisy.
Our little robot buddy picks up the kid and takes him away, and we carry on about our business. Yet when we turn around, we see one of the larger infected creatures, but we know how to deal with them now. Quick and easy, until we see that we are now facing a much bigger problem. And that's the last thing we see in this episode. This was a good extension to the world building, I gotta say. We continued on our journey with our bionic characters, who likely all went through similar experimentation. And we also learned that either the Moonfected or those larger moon creatures are also being studied, and likely having experiments run on them. At first I thought that the larger creatures were just another variation of the humans that were infected, but given that much larger creature, I now don't know what to make of them. Until I looked at the thumbnail for this episode. It shows the giant moon creature crawling out from the moon's mouth. It looks like the moon itself is producing them. Perhaps it is spawning them to defend itself from all the humans sucking out its juice. I gotta say, this was one of the most inventive and ambitious pieces of horror media I've had the pleasure of experiencing. I'm glad that given its ridiculous concept, that it didn't try and take itself too seriously all throughout. We very quickly started to embrace the silliness, and it turned this whole adventure into a really fun time. It's honestly really crazy to think that this is all the work of one person using Blender to animate everything. I can't even imagine the amount of work that goes into creating just one episode, let alone this whole series. But let's try and piece things together plot-wise the best we can, shall we? We know that Patricia was the one going around and replacing all the moons across the solar system. I imagine all the moons did exactly what ours did to Earth. After waking up, they just slam into them. But considering Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all don't have solid surfaces, you can't walk on any of these planets, the moon just sort of went inside of them with relative ease, and looks to have been what caused the planets as a whole to quote-unquote wake up. However, with Earth, it just slammed into it, likely with the same goal of trying to wake it up in a sense. Yet when we jump more into the present day, there are people among us who have been having visions of future events to come, fully aware of the planet's awakening and attempting to prepare, some even already being infected somehow. The cause of infection is still up in the air. I wouldn't be surprised if it is the moon juice that does it, but then how would Michael have gotten infected before the crash landing? After the moon had then crashed to Earth, almost wiping out all life, Friend Industries is created and manages to keep humanity from dying out, utilizing the moon juice as a way to advance technology and attempt to figure out the secrets of the universe and what they have planned for us. They aren't all saints, however, as there are plenty of scenes that give off the hint that they probably don't have humanity's best intentions in mind. They're experimenting on people and the infected, and it's even said by other characters that the whole moon juice extraction is suspicious on its own. I do still believe that the planetary infections create a hive mind of some sorts, but I'm hoping that newer episodes begin to dive further into some answers. Thankfully, episode 7 answered one of the biggest ones we could have had. Why/how did the planets wake up? But now we just need to figure out what their goals are in all of this. Really what anyone's true goals are. The planets and Friend Industries. Considering that we learned of a new planet with life on it, in a very similar situation to Earth where its moons are just sticking out from the side, I have a feeling we will be getting a lot in the coming episodes, and I am very excited to see where this crazy-ass plot goes from here, especially after seeing that the moon itself is able to spawn those frightening creatures. If you are among the few who haven't already, I can highly recommend checking out The Moon Woke Up if you are looking for a fun horror/comedy/sci-fi adventure. It gave me all sorts of familiar vibes like that of Helldivers, Cyberpunk, and even some Halo here and there. But that'll probably be about it for this video. As always, be sure to keep on leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord where we've got an endless supply of moon juice. But if you'll excuse me, I have an interview with the repopulation program and I can't be late.